All right, it says we are live. Sorry about that, folks. I know we're a little bit late. We were having some technical difficulties. If you know Jason and I at all, you know we like to be prepared before we come on here. We even tested it yesterday. Everything was good to go, and then all of a sudden my phone started going bananas. And let me see if I could turn this. It looks like I'm getting some light out of that window.
Well, I can't see us on the stream, so.
It says there's 2 people in here.
Well, that is on the studio chat.
It says we're live.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking at our chat.
Yeah, Sam said, "Sup, dude?" So I can see it.
Okay.
He said they can see us, so they can see us. All right on. Dang it! I got this annoying.
Well, I can't see it, so I can't see their chat, but I believe you.
Hey, from Jackson, Wyoming, what's going on? Ron 9mm, what's up? Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with this. Evening, folks. We're gonna have to. Looks like we're gonna have to deal with this.
That's what you get with some Gen Xers.
I know who don't know how to. Hey, there's Mark. It says you got 2 streams going. What?
Okay, there we go. Okay, okay, I can see us now.
We were having so many problems, guys. For some reason, again, we tested. If you didn't catch it earlier on, we tested it last night. We laid everything out, tested everything, make sure it was good to go, and then I get in here and try to fire it up, and it kept airplaying a video from X or something. I had to shut my whole phone down. And
well, Mark says we have two streams going. So
yeah, that's Matt loves SIGs. Who the hell said that? No, I'm just kidding. What's up, Andy? Matt does not love nor hate SIG, okay? And you know what? I was thinking about this. Since the SIG thing is hot right now and everybody's, talking about it, and then every day some new stuff keeps coming out. I was thinking about it. It's not, I know this is obvious, and I shouldn't have to say it, but it's not all of SIG's products. It's this one darn pistol. And then SIG's managed to turn everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people, especially gun owners, we're the ones that buy their products. And you turned us against. I've gotten so many comments, Jason, about I will never buy another SIG product again. Some people have said, diehard SIG fan here, been owning them for 30, 40 years. And because of the way they are handling this situation, I will never buy another SIG again. And I was like, oof. But it's basically this one handgun, and they seem like they are willing to die on that hill. I don't know. What do you think?
I personally think it's all about money and liability, because if they admit that there's a problem with it, you're going to have to deal with all of the lawsuits. You're going to deal with people wanting to have, recalls or, replacements. And I just don't think financially they're in a position where they can do that. And so they're between a rock and a hard place. And I'm sure their lawyers and their, bean counters are looking at the situation, and they're thinking to themselves, what's the best possible outcome, depending on, what decision we make, what we admit. I do believe, and because the numbers of firearms and pistols that have had the issue are so small compared to the number that are out there.
Yes.
That I do believe that they have tested them, and probably a lot of them, and cannot duplicate the problems. I don't even think that they truly know what the issue is. So they're like, well, if we can't duplicate the issue on a mass scale, how do we create a fix?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But to me, and tell me if I'm way off base here, but to me, that's like saying, well, I've never been struck by lightning, so I don't believe it's a real thing. You know what I mean? Or I've never been attacked by a shark, so I don't think shark attacks are real. That type of stuff, because shark attacks are so rare, but they scared the crap out of us. You know what I mean? They will, they are so, what's the word I'm looking for? Terrifying, I guess, to some people, that they'll stay out of the water, even though the odds of them getting bitten by a shark is 0 to none. It's just things like that. Or a lot of people, here's another one, maybe. Some people say, I don't believe in ghosts or aliens. And other people say, listen, I've had encounters and I completely agree with them. And I don't want to say those people are liars, And with the technology nowadays, I think a lot of people will say, a lot of people that want to deny that this is happening at all are saying, well, what about Glock? They had problems when they first came out. That was 40 years ago. And obviously Glock is not having the same problems. Nobody's claiming that they're having the same problems in 2025, in 1985, maybe. And it was quickly figured out, Glock was responsive and quickly figured out that it was, people need to be retrained from the days of the revolvers, stuff like that. And back then we didn't have body cams and surveillance en masse like we do now. So I think that was possibly one of the reasons. But it also, a lot of people will accept products that are subpar if, when they are identified, if the company addresses their grievances quickly, and even if they believe it's not an issue, if they say, you know what, send your guns in, we'll take a look at them. We don't think there's a problem, but we'll take a look at them for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If they'd have done that early on, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
Well, it could be a byproduct of scale. If you create something where there's millions of these pistols out there, and I mean, I don't know the exact number, and I'm sure there's some that go unreported. And I do believe that what people claim they have done, the pistols have done them. So I'm not saying, oh, there's not an issue with them. But when you have millions upon millions of them, it's inevitable that something's going to happen. And speaking of Glock, early on, and this might be a little bit of the case, is there was nothing else on the market like Glock when it came and it hit the scene.
Yes.
And people at that time, especially law enforcement, were carrying double action, single action revolvers. Yes. They moved to these pistols. They're not familiar with the manual of arms or the finickiness of how the gun works. Today, we're all familiar with Glocks.
Yeah.
We all know what to expect from that machine. But
and
now we have a SIG.
The same pistol they've been for 40 years. Mm-hmm. So
people have trained on it. And now we have a SIG. And yes, it's a striker-fired polymer pistol, but it doesn't have the blade safety. It has a lighter trigger. It has a, the FCU. It's a different gun. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just different. Mm-hmm. And there's people that are unfamiliar with that platform.
Yeah, no, you're right. So Phil Strader was on a live stream last night. I forget the name of the channel, but he was on a live stream. And now this isn't a direct quote because I don't remember exactly what he said, but I believe he said there was like roughly 3.5 million pistols out there. And so far they think there's been maybe 350 reports of this. And he also said that, kind of, in, again, not a direct quote, but he kind of echoed what you said. We gave the pistol that the people wanted, the light trigger, so that it's easier to shoot the gun and be more accurate with it, with them catering to the law enforcement community, wanting them to get more hits on target. And we all know, if you spend any time shooting, just shoot a revolver, okay, a double action, single action revolver, and most people, if they miss enough pulling double action, they'll get frustrated and just go single, and they'll start hitting because the lock time is a lot quicker, and it's a lot easier to make mistakes when you're pulling through a heavy double action revolver pull. So he kind of echoed what you said, but maybe they flew too close to the sun and they gave it a competition pistol in place of what should have been a duty pistol. Maybe, I'm sure Glock, I've heard over the 4 decades that Glock has been around, I've heard it from competition shooters. I've heard it from tons of people. Trigger sucks, trigger sucks, trigger sucks. I think even when I was on the live stream with the Yankee Marshall, he's like, yeah, but the Glock trigger sucks. Okay, well, do you want a safe, duty-rated striker-fired gun with a sucky trigger, or do you want the competition light, just give it a little tap, tap, taparoo, and it's going to go off on,
Well, I mean, I don't want to, sing my own praises here, but I think I was the first person on YouTube.
I think you were. Yeah.
That said, SIG gave you the gun you wanted. Every time I review a Glock or talk about Glocks, you get the Glock haters. And this also goes into something else I've talked about that other people have echoed, is so many gun owners, people in the gun world, are so emotionally driven. They become so tribal. And you and I were talking about that on the phone a couple of days ago. That, you know, it's like that old what was that movie? You know, it was like the werewolves and the vampires. You're like team this or team that.
Oh, Underworld.
Underworld, is that okay? Something like
Yeah.
that. And so, you know, it's the same thing here. If you're Team Glock, you have to defend Team Glock. How dare you? And I see this with every pistol that I review, because I review so many different types of guns. Yes. And inevitably, people that are of that team, when I say something bad about it, oh, you're an idiot, you're wrong, how dare you? It's the greatest gun of all time. You know, my whatever gun it is just as good as a $10,000 Cabot Guns 2011.
Yep.
Sure it is, but it's fine. So the issue with what's going on is you do have the Team SIG people and the people that hate Glock. And so when they came out, or they were looking at guns, they were like, well, I hate this, I hate that. I think the Yankee Marshall actually talked about that in one of his recent videos as well. And SIG gave the gun people what? Every time I review a Glock, I hate the trigger, I hate the angle, it feels like tactical Tupperware, it's this or that. Yeah. They listened, and they built it for you. And now you have problems. And people think I blame gun owners. I kind of do. You know, people that are of that mindset and not thinking about what the gun was designed to be and designed to do. But yeah. I'm not saying you individually or anybody in the chat or anybody watching this in the future, I'm not saying you're personally responsible, but if you've ever shot a Glock or shot a certain gun and said, I don't like that about that, and then SIG answered it, well, then they gave you the gun you wanted.
Yes, no, that's a fact. Paveway JDam said, unpopular opinion, mini modern shooters suck. They lean on match triggers. Back in the day, let me scroll this up, probably see my fat finger on there. Back in my day, Sonny, you had to shit duty trigger and make yourself the match trigger. Yeah, well, listen, I did a video on that where a lot of people, Ben Steger, have talked about this. This is a well-known thing especially in the competition arena, in the competition world, that people try to buy skill. They don't want to go out there and train the fundamentals a lot of times. So they say, I'll buy a lighter trigger. I'll use lighter reloaded ammo. I will buy, better red dot. I'll buy a Radian ramjet. And not saying all those things don't help. Not saying that at all. But it's almost like anything. You must build the fundamentals first. Perfect example here. I used to ride sport bikes. I used to ride them on the track. I crashed on the street, screwed my shoulder up, had to have surgery. I decided, you know what? I better learn how to ride this thing for real before I kill myself. So I took this thing called California Superbike School, and they tour around the country and they teach you how to ride those motorcycles properly, how to drag your knee and all that stuff you see in all the racing stuff. It's the same type of stuff. People will go out and buy a gun, and I'm not saying there should be a test to buy a gun. Absolutely not. It's your right to buy it, but they don't really practice. You know what I mean? You and I talked about this. They don't put any trigger time. They might shoot once or twice, maybe on their birthday, maybe on Independence Day, 4th of July, Father's Day, fire 50 to 100 rounds, call it good, go home, barbecue, stuff like that. And then they watch John Wick movies and they're like, I can do that. I'm just as good as John Wick, So yeah, I think he's right. They basically try to buy skill a lot of times.
And I will tell you, I think you actually can to some degree. When
Yes.
I shoot a $400 Taurus or Ruger, and then on the same range trip, I'm also reviewing a Atlas Gunworks, $6,000 or $7,000 2011. And I shoot that gun like, holes through holes.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Taurus is grouping like this. There's definitely a difference between those two. But I also think that I am of an interesting age, and I got into guns at a very interesting time in that I have seen the trends and what the average gun owner should expect from their equipment change. So when I first got into guns, I'm going to say it's like 2010. So it's not like I've been doing this like my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
There were no pistols with optics ready cuts. Nobody was using red dots. That was only 15 years ago. It's not like it was that long. Many people in the gun world today are new to guns, even if they're my age or older. They just got into guns. So many people talk about that on my channel and in the comments. Thank you for making this video because I just got this gun. I'm a new gun owner, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for a long time, and I've had this debate with some of the people that lend guns to my channel about, I've always kind of been an iron sights guy. Not that I think iron sights are the best, but I do believe they're the basic skill you should have. Just like if you're going to drive a car, I wish we had more, or teach somebody, we should have more manual transmission cars.
Yeah.
Once you drive a manual transmission car and you feel, you become more one with the car. Then when you drive an automatic and you feel it doing what it's doing, you know and understand what it's doing, and you can control it better. You can, I feel like the same way with guns. You should be able to shoot iron sights, not using red dots, not using competition triggers, not using jet funnels and guns that are tricked out. You should be able to shoot a Glock 19 respectably well out of the box, stock trigger, iron sights, and then you can shoot your other stuff. Yeah. But if you can't shoot iron sights, because I know people that don't even use iron sights anymore. Yes. Everything's a red dot, eyes both open, you know.
Yes.
That's not the way it was.
I shoot with eyes both open on irons. I grew up on irons. I personally believe in the overall schema, especially in a military context. I also did a video on this. I believe iron sights are superior. And I say that because they don't require batteries. They rarely, if ever, break unless you really smash the crap out of the handgun. Mm-hmm. They don't lose zero, again, unless you really drop them and damage them. You get mud on them, you just wipe it off. And I know a lot of people are like, enclosed emitters. And don't get me wrong, a red dot sighting system on a pistol and a rifle is far superior to iron sights with target acquisition, especially for CQB stuff. I agree with all of that. And I got them on rifles. You could probably see a couple back there. I got them on rifles and stuff. I got them on pistols, a few. But there are drawbacks with them too, especially battery life, all kinds of things. The motherboard, the electronics can be they're getting so much better, but they can still be fragile, a lot more fragile than iron sights. But I see the value in them. And
they are definitely a force multiplier.
Yes.
And they can change the game, but you shouldn't rely on them. That's another reason, and I'm very critical of guns, even high-end guns that don't have iron sights. Like some of these high-end 2011s, they just come with optics cuts. And we did, as I said, I mentioned earlier, we didn't have optics 15 years ago like we do today.
No.
So imagine with all the tech, all the changes, what are we going to be shooting in another 15 years?
Yes.
So you might get a $6,000, $7,000 gun today. It's optics ready, no iron sights. There's no options for iron sights. And then 15 years from now, we don't use any of those footprints. We don't use any of those types of sights anymore. And now you have a gun that's unusable. Iron sights are timeless, just like a manual transmission is timeless.
So
and
when
that should always be an option.
So when they started out, I saw some people said they were USPSA shooters. When I started out, I shot my first USPSA match in 1997 in Virginia. We were still shooting 45s. You're absolutely right. We were still shooting 45s in limited edition, a limited division. Open division, people were mounting these Seymour Railways and these big dots on their pistols and they were 1911s, usually in 38 Super with a comp on them. And they had this big mount that screwed to the frame and it came up and it held this big old optic on it. You're absolutely right. Those are obsolete nowadays. I'm sure there's some old guys out there that still run those for nostalgia purposes, but most of them are 2011s in 9mm with a slide ride dot of some kind and no iron sights. You're absolutely right. So those are now obsolete. What was 15 years ago, like you said, that was the bee's knees with those big, huge side mounted, they were mounted sideways over the top. So I agree with you. I think that is where it's going.
Yeah, people live just in the moment. And think about all of the other trends.
I can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now? I can hear you.
Can you
Uh-oh.
hear? Uh-oh. Oh no.
Well, if people in the
I cannot hear you.
uh-oh.
What is going on? Why are we having all these problems?
They say they can hear us both.
Lost the audio there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. I think SIG is coming after us.
There we go.
Oh, you can hear us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hear you now. All right. All right. Good to go. Sorry about that. Hey, quick, before we pick back up again, you know what? A lot of people out there are watch guys. Let's do a watch check. What are you wearing tonight?
Well, actually, I just took it off because I was typing, but today I was wearing my Rolex green Oyster Perpetual. Let's see if I get
OP.
it right there.
Yep.
The good old OP with money green
OP.
dial.
Is that a 41 or is it?
It's a 41, yeah.
41. Okay. Okay. I'm wearing a Grand Seiko. I don't remember the number. Funny thing about this one is it's a quartz, and I know some people will be like, "Oh, quartz," but
I'm like that. Ooh, quartz.
Listen, right? But my wife bought it for me in Tokyo, Japan, when she was out there on travel. But this thing is so accurate. You know, with Rolexes being chronometers, they're like 2 to 4 seconds a day is usually chronometer grade. This thing it's plus or minus 2 to 4 seconds. This thing is plus or minus 10 seconds a year. Not so it's extremely accurate. It's ridiculous. If you can get over the click. So sometimes I think everybody should have some type of quartz, because sometimes I sit there and I go, I just don't want to wind my watch, and I just grab it and go. I
have a Bulova Lunar Pilot that has
the
meteorite dial, and I recently bought a G-Shock MTG. So yeah,
the OG Shock. I got a G-Shock. I like G-Shock. So yeah, but I think you're right. The technology marches on and all this other kind of stuff. Where were we at before we lost?
Well, we were talking about how things changed and his gun community and all that kind of stuff. Because I've been making videos. I know a lot of people that find my channel now think it's only been around for a couple years, but the real fans know it's been around for 12 or 13 years before YouTube nuked my original channel. And during that time, I made a lot of videos about whatever the big controversy was of the day. Today, it's the SIG P320.
Yes.
In the past, there was the Century Arms AKs that had all the problems with the trunnions.
The RAS 47 and the Viscas.
The RAS 47. That's what it was. And then all you saw on YouTube for years was we have to check the hardness of trunnions and do go no go gauges. And now when you see people review AKs, no one does any of that stuff again, and people don't even remember it. There's been all these fads, and I honestly have been around. And I know I sound like an old guy now. I've been around long enough to know that in literally 2 years, no one's going to care about the SIG P320 stuff. They're going to, oh yeah, it had problems. I don't know whatever happened to that. We're just going to move on.
Yeah. Whatever
the hot button issue is of the day, and they'll get mad at people like you and I as we make videos about it or review the guns or whatever.
You know what the great thing about this is, though, is it's kind of going back to the SIG thing, but just corporations in general. It blows my mind. You and I have talked about this a lot, and I've seen a lot of your videos, and you and I are on the same page with this. We don't cheer on any company or corporation or stuff like that. We're not shills for anybody. We're not brand loyalists. You're like, wow, this brand seems to make a lot of good products, but then they have a dud. And this brand, a lot of people will say they're crap, but they've actually made some pretty good guns. But there's people that will get out here and just vehemently defend a corporation like SIG or Glock or whoever. And you're going, guy, do you know that? Why are you out here defending these? They don't have your best interest at heart. Usually, they want to make money, and they will throw you under the bus not to make or not to lose money. And some people will just get so angry over this stuff.
The anger and the passion for the tribalism is something that frustrates me to all ends as a firearms content creator. Right now, and I know I've seen it on your videos. I'll say something about the P320. I made those videos on my second channel.
Yep.
And in the same video, I get somebody claiming I'm a SIG shill. And the next comment is someone saying that I'm just a SIG hater and I can't get past the truth. It's just like, how do you get that from the same? You didn't watch the video. And it's funny because I have my main channel right now is like 34,000 subscribers or something. They're like, you're being paid by these companies. You really think that brand X is coming to me when they can go to Coleon Noir or Military Arms Channel,
right?
Or whatever. You really think that my video that gets 1,000 views in 1 week, they're going to invest money, right?
Yeah, right.
Never.
Which, if you get 1,000 views, there's
$5. If I get that,
if you get 1,000 views, I hit 1,000 views, there's $5. Considering all the work you put into a video, that's probably 50 cents an hour you're making if your video gets to 1,000 views. It's crazy what you're right. I got the same stuff. Like, oh my God, you have saved the world with this video, and then the next one is you're a lying piece of
well, I have to say, I do have to say that green screen behind you looks really good.
Yeah, the green. Yeah, I love those. It's a green screen. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy. So, in case people don't know, let's talk about you for a little bit. You do have 2 channels. You have the Texas Gun Vault, right, where you do strictly reviews and
product reviews
and tear down mostly guns, right?
All guns. Yeah, I used to do commentary and stuff that I do on my second channel, but I decided to separate it.
Yeah. Which is I think I told you the other night, it's pretty smart to do that. So guys, he has 2 channels. If you end up watching this and he shows you a gun, like I watched your Ross Martin one today, and the thing I said, when I get on the stream, I want to talk to him and tell people, it's not a review. That's not his review channel. That's his second channel. That's a first impressions of the gun, and then you can see the full review later, which is smart. But yeah, it's sad that you have to keep saying that all the time. And when people are like, this is the worst review ever, and you're like, I didn't review it. I just said.
I know. It's people say I need to let all the stuff just kind of roll off my shoulder. Yeah. I guess it's just the I guess I'll say it's the stupidity or the ignorance. It just wears on you after a while. And I'll preference a video. I know you made that video that blew up. I mean, it's kind of cool that I knew you before that, because you were everywhere. The other huge channels that I watch were all referencing you, using your videos, and it was pretty cool. It's like, I know that guy. That's so awesome. Yeah. But yeah,
it was crazy. It was out of control. I had people from the media contacting me. I did an interview with the Epic Times, their firearms writer. Now it's behind a paywall, so unless you're a subscriber to the Epic Times, they gave me like a free 30-day subscription so I could read the article. It was pretty good. It was fair. He reached out and he talked to Phil Strader and all this kind of stuff, and that was the whole, but it was crazy. People were making memes about me. It was insane. Frankly, it was overwhelming.
I want to be a meme.
And then of course there was the people like, you knew this video was going to do good. And how? Really? I do videos, and I know you've experienced this because I've talked about this with several different YouTubers. I know you'll do a video and you go, yeah, I nailed it. This is a great video. I loved it. The angles are perfect. This is going to do great. And you put it out there and you check it an hour later and it's like 30 views. And you go, well, come on, this is a great video and it's relevant. It just, for some reason, the algorithms, they will tank certain videos, and then others they'll just launch to the moon. You can't tell. There's no way you can tell.
The one that blew up for me was when what is his name, Luigi Mangione or whatever.
Yes. Yep, I remember that video.
Killed that CEO of that insurance company. Everybody, all of a sudden, everyone's an internet expert on everything. Yes. You know how that works. Oh, it's the B&T VP9. It's what it is. Yeah. It's no doubt what it is. And I'm like,
even the news was running with that.
Yeah, and so I have one of the 500 that are in the country. I mean, I have some friends at B&T, and so I went and I just got home from work that day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this thing out. I don't think it's the gun. And I went and got out. I took it out of the, the case and showed it. And I said, "Is this the gun that And I talk about. And I was just thinking it was going to be like a, like a throw. I call it like a throwaway video. I'm just talking to I would say my biggest fans on my second channel. If I get a couple hundred views, and it's the same people that comment on every video, which is awesome. It's just guys talking around the water cooler at work is what I look at it as. And that thing took off like crazy, and I did not mean it to. Just like your video, I know.
Yeah.
It was just, it just blew up like crazy.
The funny thing is you and I were right about that too, because I did a video on that around the exact same time. You know how it is. Current events, when they involve firearms, a lot of firearms channels will do a video about it. And people are like, man, Texas Gunball just did a video about it. Why are you doing it? Well, because there are some people that aren't subscribed to Coleon Noir, Texas Gun, whatever, and get the information out there. And being on, on YouTube, I feel like I want to give my opinion. Why don't you take your phone, give your opinion, and upload a video? I say to those people, your opinion, let's hear what your opinion is, instead of you screeching in my comments. But the funny thing is I did a video too, and I called it. You go back, I said he did not use, I said he used some 3D printed bull crap in a homemade suppressor that was not, he's not a trained assassin at all. This is all this crap. It's all bull crap. And my video got like 2,000 views. It got nothing. It did nothing. And so that's the thing about the algorithm. Basically same subject, maybe, you had one of the guns and you're like, it's not a VP9. Like, just stop. It's,
Yeah. Yeah. And then I even had the people that told me, that corrected me or thought they were correcting me, going, that's not a VP9, that's a B&T Station 6. Yeah. And I'm like, I own both. I know. Here they are, VP9. But they know better than me.
They know better.
There's a lot of people that
is an HK gun, Jason. Didn't you know that? Like,
it happens all the time. Yeah. So I want to pivot here for a second. Yeah. And I want to kind of talk about your fame. And I want to talk about the Yankee Marshall.
Okay. All right.
So I'm curious. Now, I know this is an unpopular thing, and I'm sure people are going to hate me when I say this, but I actually subscribe to him, and I watch his content every day. And it's not because I necessarily agree with everything he says, but I kind of look at him now I don't know much about professional wrestling. Right. I know that my wife is a huge Macho Man Randy Savage fan, but I do know that there's a role in wrestling called the heel, which is the bad guy. Yes. The guy you're supposed to hate.
Yes.
And I always look at the Yankee Marshall as the heel. I think he's playing a game. He knows what he is. He's a contrarian. And so he's always antagonistic to people that he even slightly agrees with. Not that I think it's mean-spirited. I think it's a character. And you went on his program or his podcast, and I was just curious what you thought of your interaction with him.
So first of all, he was one of the first channels. It's funny you mentioned that, because I talked to you about this. He was one of the first channels, if not the first channel, to reach out to me to make a rebuttal video and insinuate a bunch of things, like I was dishonest with it and all that other kind of stuff, and I had ulterior motives behind the whole thing, and then invite me on his a live stream so we could talk about it. So I said, sure. I'm not, I will go debate anybody, especially if I believe, if I'm confident in my position and there's nothing I have to hide about that. The video you saw was real. And people are like, why are you acting like that? Because, I explained this on his channel and some other ones. If you go back, I have half a dozen or more of videos trying to figure out, going down these different rabbit holes, trying to figure out what's going on with the P320, because I believe there is something going on. While I believe it is very rare and intermittent, I believe it is real. The video evidence to me doesn't lie. But so I was going down kind of the same rabbit holes that different channels are going down, a lot like what a lot of people are doing now. They're out there testing stuff, they're wiggling stuff, they're moving stuff, they're making videos themselves. And so I was doing the same thing. So I'd been doing this for months. And it's, like I explained, I saw the video where somebody like just put a little bit of pressure on the trigger and tapped it, and it went on. And I said, is that what's going on with there? How do I measure that? I wanted to recreate that scenario and then be able to measure it, because I knew if you just put finger pressure, people are gonna be like, well, you're pulling the trigger. And that's a valid point. I wanted to be able to pin the trigger in there and see how, and the whole thing that was in the video. And so I don't back away from a challenge. I'll talk to you. I'm not like some of these younger kids nowadays that are like, if you think different than me, I hate you. I'm not like that. I will sit down and listen to your side. I will debate anybody and present my position. And, you know, if we end up, I didn't think I was going to be able to change his mind, because again, like you said, I believe the same thing. I believe his shtick is being contrarian and being the heel. And I have seen a lot of his videos and I disagree with him a lot, but there's some things I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I agree with it, with him. And I also knew that his cachet, his, you know, his shtick is that. So I said, I'm not going to get riled up, and I'm not going to turn it into, I'm not going to have it degrade into some type of screaming match with ad hominem attacks. It just doesn't
I
work.
saw the other interview he did with that other person, and they were just calling each other fat. And I was like, what is, you know, like train wrecks were slowing down to watch them.
Yes, yeah. And it was funny, but it didn't accomplish anything. You know what I mean? It was just personal attacks. And I've seen a lot of live streams on it, because he challenges a lot of people to come on his live stream. He's like, if you disagree with me, come on Shooting with Yankee, whatever, on live stream, and we'll talk about it. And so he did it to me, and I'm like, okay, I'll come on. I have, you know, I have all the confidence in the world that what I did was legitimate, in the fact that I never claimed to have, I solved the problem, I win the prize, any of that other kind of stuff. I believe, again, like I said, I believe certain parts of that are a piece to the puzzle to what's going on. And I think collectively, if we all keep doing this stuff, you did the videos too, your guns don't do it. I have more P320 videos filmed. If I release them, I'm going to do it sparingly, because it's so overwhelming, all that, you know, the P320 content coming out. I don't want to become the P320 channel, and that's my whole thing. You know what I mean? But in all of our defense that are making P320 content, SIG just keeps giving us more and more every day. These risk assessment
I saw
things.
a thing where they might have just changed their tune a little bit. I've seen a couple of videos where I guess people were commenting that their latest responses have kind of toned it down, not blaming people, saying that they're, you know, helping with the Air Force with their investigation, or they'll do anything that they can to get to the bottom of it, that kind of thing. They're not saying it ends today and or the like, you know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just heard today that the United States Marshal Service said no more carrying those things. They don't even want them anywhere near, you know. So I don't know. They just did that document that was redacted, and then they unredacted it. The threat assessment level of, there's some interesting info in there. That engineer that used to work with SIG was talking more and more about his upgrade, where the safety also blocks the sear from movement. So honestly, I believe, in just strictly my opinion, if they tightened up their manufacturing process, they tightened up the slop and the slide, they redesigned a few things, they could probably make it, you know.
I've said it before. Their only real option. This is, of course, I am not a. You know, I mean, if people want to pay me as a, you know, someone that comes in and gives them advice, what do you call that? Somebody, I forget what that job's title is called, but I think their only option, without having to admit fault and move on, is say, hey, we've come out with the SIG P321.
Yes.
And it's a new generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's the next gun in the lineup, and we've evolved. And they don't admit fault. They just change the design and address these issues. And it's essentially the same gun with better manufacturing and tire tolerances, but it's just the new generation, just like Glock changes generations, and they don't admit fault, and they just internally fix what they know the issue is. And I saw somebody in the chat just a moment ago was talking about holsters. I think it was Gun Hiker had mentioned about the argument that some holsters might put pressure or touch the P320 trigger, reducing take-up. One of the things I mentioned in some of my videos is that the trigger guard of the P320 or certain versions of the 320 are thin. And the trigger shoe and the face of the trigger is kind of wide. And it's almost flush with the side of the trigger guard. Like if you would take like a piece of paper or something and touch the side of the trigger, it's literally going to touch some of the trigger. And possibly when you're inserting that into a holster, because most holsters grab around the trigger guard or have some type of pressure there, it might be pulling that trigger back, as you had tested, just a little bit. Then the jostling in the holster, it goes off. And that's where I felt that the people that said, well, this isn't a valid test because he pulled the trigger back a little bit and was holding it back. Yeah, but that might happen in a holster.
Right.
You know?
The argument. So you're exactly right. Thank you. So SIG's argument this whole time is it's been the Safari Land holster. But then when it happened in an Alien Gear one, they said it's still a holster, even though they're two different designs, two different companies. But whatever. Let's go with SIG Sauer's. This is their theory, SIG Sauer's theory, that it is the holster. If you combine the light with the holster and all that kind of stuff, it's the holster's fault. Well, then just like you said, then my test is valid because the holster has to put input into the trigger and the safeties are disengaged with that little bit of take up right when you hit the wall. The striker safety is completely disengaged. So if you have a striker safety that's completely disengaged, theoretically, let me back up. If you have a holster that puts enough pressure just to hit to the wall, your safety is then disengaged. And like that picture I sent you where there was that damage, I sent you that picture with the damage on the striker hook. Yeah, that's from a court case where allegedly a 16-year-old boy, I think in Tampa, was killed because of an uncommanded discharge. So if it has it where, like I said before, I was trying to simulate the perching, if it gets caught on that damage on that striker hook or sear, and then you input a little bit in the trigger, like you said, because of the holster, because there's no dingus, and then the slide rattles, well, there you go. That's one theory that could, Now,
I'm going to ask a question here, and I know people will say, oh, you're defending SIG. And no, I'm not. I'm just asking questions to get to the bottom of it. Right. Are there any documented cases where somebody has a loaded P320 outside of a holster and puts it on a table or puts it in their safe, so it's not being touched by anything else, it's just laying on the table, and it goes bang?
And say that again.
Are there any cases of these P320s having the uncommanded discharges where the gun is just laying on the table outside of a holster? I don't know of any.
No, I don't think so. No.
And so obviously there, as you said, there's input from something, whether that be motion of the slide to frame fit, it could be the fire control, it could be the holster, it could be the way the people are carrying it. Not saying it's their fault.
No.
That's the design flaw in the gun, because I'm 100% sure, and I would be safe. I'm sure if I loaded all of my P320s and they're like, you hate the P3, I have 9 of them or whatever.
Yeah, you don't hate them.
If I loaded them all and I put them in my safe, I don't think any of them are going to go bang in the middle of the night. They all seem to have the problem when they're in a holster being used. Someone is walking around. Even the Air Force guy, he took it, he undid it off of his belt. There was some type of input. Should that happen? Absolutely not. It should not. It doesn't happen with any other company and any other gun. So there is something wrong with it. And all the people that say that there isn't, I think, are lying to themselves. But I'm not saying it's all the gun's fault. It's so many factors involved.
No, and I'm not. I've said it. I said it to you. I've said it on other videos. I've said it in the live stream. I never once made the claim that is 100% what is going on with that video I did with that test. I think that is very concerning, though, because in that specific case where the gun could set up like that, and I have a video, like I said, I don't know when I'm going to release it or if, but if where I'm able to look at the back of the fire control system of that 45, the P320 and 45 that I did it. And the lockup on that thing is wonky as hell. The striker locks way up to the left. If you put a little bit of input into the trigger several times, it just slowly walks to the right. This tolerances are just all over the place on this gun. I think if they tightened up the tolerances as much as they could to keep it reliable, that might fix the alleged problem, but you're absolutely right. It doesn't, but see, that's the same thing with even functioning firearms. It takes human interaction to even get them into action. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just a paperweight. It takes the human to load it and pull the trigger, just like it takes a human to crash the car and kill people, or it takes the human to drink alcohol and get in the car and crash people. I think, but see, engineers know this. You have to design your firearms, especially firearms, with the human element in mind, and try to take, the human part of the equation, and try to take as much.
Well, what's the saying? If you put a Marine or two Marines and a ball bearing in a room and come back in an hour, they're going to break it.
And that's true. The Marines break all kinds of stuff.
Well,
I love the Marines.
You have to design the ball bearing where the two Marines can't break it.
Yes, I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who it was, and they talk about when they design the firearms like that, you have to design them that if they fail safely. So, for example, like let's say the SIG P320 is one. The trigger, there's apparently an issue out there with the trigger return spring breaking a lot. And people will even I've talked to plenty of them, I've seen tons of videos where it actually happens. It's a real thing, that they catch on camera. People will bring 3 or 4, they order the trigger bar springs by the dozen, and they just keep extras. So when they're at the range shooting and it breaks, they put a new one in. But when it breaks, the gun doesn't go full auto. It was designed the trigger is dead. So when the spring fails, the trigger's dead and the firearm is no longer able to fire, which is not optimal in a self-defense situation. But from a safety standpoint, it doesn't fail to where the trigger just gets pinned back and then it goes full auto to the mags emptied, which if you engineer it poorly, you could engineer a gun where if your trigger return spring fails, it'll just dump the mag or whatever, So that's kind of an example. If certain part of you got to look at high wear parts, springs are one, springs, stuff like that. If this fails, what happens? And I'm not saying that the P320 is not designed the same way with that, with their sear springs, but I think also there's been cases and people have seen this where the striker safety blade in the P320, that little torsion spring in there, can either break or fail, and I could do this on my 45, but I do it manually, and that's not, even though that's just trying to, set it up to as a test, but it can slip behind the blade safety and jam it in position. So a lot of people have said that's a poor design, and I tend to agree.
Well, that's where, and of course, people are going to say, "Oh, you're just a Glock lover."
Yeah.
Well, that's where I think Glock really did their homework. In that, if the if the striker falls off that cruciform, it doesn't have enough energy to, even if the firing pin block was disabled, to hit or to fire the case. You have the firing pin block, which is big and robust, and it's disengaged further in the trigger pull than it is on the P320. You have that dingus safety. You have so many things in there that when you fire the gun, you have to really want to fire the gun.
Yes. And let's not forget, people are saying, well, Glock's the New York City police were having problems, and they came up with the New York trigger. So exactly, they did. I believe Glock at the time, that all these New York City police officers were having NDs. They were having negligent discharges, because I believe they were putting that, because remember, they went from like the Smith & Wesson Model 10 or 19 14 to 15 pound double action revolver and they're running down the street with their finger on the trigger.
Exactly.
You do that with a Glock with a 5 pound and you're like, bang. So they put in the New York trigger, which was like 8 pounds or 12 pounds or something. So Glock addressed it. Glock was probably like, and I know this because there's nothing, they didn't change all the rest of their guns. They're like, there's nothing wrong with our guns, but if you want a heavier trigger, we'll make it for you.
And you're absolutely right. Well, see, and that a lot of those NDs were because of poor training. You and I know, finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Yes.
And they probably, and we see this in those cop interaction videos. And I'm not saying that I'm better than them because I don't know what I would be like in a life and death situation. I'm not, you're thinking about other things. I totally get it. But you're right. They're running down the street or whatever the situation is, finger on the trigger. And it's even like, you remember a couple years ago when there was that female police officer that thought she was pulling her taser, but then pull. It's just poor training.
Yes.
And it's poor. And I mean, how many police officers, and I'm not saying the ones that might be in the chat tonight or this, but I hear all the time,
cops.
But a lot of these police officers only shoot their guns once a year when they have to qualify.
Yes. And I've heard that, Jason, shooting all the competition I did, there were a lot of law enforcement officers that would come out. I knew a lot of Virginia State Police guys. They really don't shoot a lot. One, they don't have time because a lot of times they're working overtime. They're buried in paperwork. And then usually their department, now I hear this straight from cops, usually their department does not have the money to give them ammo to practice. I've heard from cops say their department gives them 2 boxes of ammo, 100 rounds, to be able to practice to qualify. And
that's like a warm-up for you or I.
That's a warm-up. That's once a year. So they're expected to go out. They've told me that their department says, we expect you to go out and train with your handgun on their dime. And then on top of that, they don't really make a lot of money. So they don't get around to doing all that. Here's the thing too that I just popped into my head while we're talking about this. If cops were running down the street like this with the 320 and it going off, I'd be like, that's poor training. But it's in their holster. There's video. Have you seen the video of the King County Sheriff, the female? They go into a supermarket. They pull this guy down off of a shelf. It's a supermarket in Washington State. I actually used to live in King County. It's King County Sheriff's Department. They pull him off the shelf. They're wrestling with him in the supermarket, and you hear bang. And people are like, whoa, you see the body cam. It's on body cam. They're like, what was that? I don't know. They get the guy. Nobody was bleeding. So they just kind of, they put the bracelets on him and take him outside, and they're talking. And then the female's like, they were like, what was that? She said, I don't know. Everybody check yourselves. And she goes, I think my gun went off. And they take it out and they rack it, and there's an empty casing in there. Her gun went off in her holster. It was a P320. So there's video of them going off and holster, or you see, like you saw, I think you and I talked about it. The guy, I think he was either Taiwanese or something, and he puts his 320 back in the holster, and you clearly see his finger straight and off the trigger. And as soon as it goes into that holster, boom, it goes off. So,
which probably means the trigger was pulled in the holster. Not his fault, but that's a design problem. Holster, gun, or combo of the two.
Yes. If the holster is pulling the trigger, there's so many holster makers out there. Why don't you design your gun with a thinner trigger, with the dingus, with a wider trigger guard, something like that? Now, I've also seen videos where holster makers are now stopping production of holsters for the P320. T-Rex Arms said they'll buy them all back. You send it back in, we'll buy them back, or we can give you a holster in replacement for a different one, because, and I can't remember the word. Gosh, I wish I could remember the word. There's some type of liability in the law where if you know that there's a problem with a certain product, and then you in turn make a product that's supplemental to that, or what, you can be held liable too. So that's why a lot of these training, excuse me, I saw this video of the guy that's running Gunsight, and they have recently banned the 320 from usage because, like he said, not me, he said, the world's run by lawyers and accountants. And I tend to agree with that. And he said before they decided this, he did not, consult his legal team. He just decided to do it because he could be held liable. He could be sued also because they can say, the lawyers that are suing SIG can also turn around and say, you knew because of all the videos out there, because your customer, all this other kind of stuff, you knew there was a potential problem for these pistols and you decided to let your students use them anyway, and now somebody is injured. We're suing you too. So to avoid that, they're not, and this is real because this new Fernandez case, there's another new case where an officer Fernandez is suing Sig Sauer, and his lawyers are also suing the gun store that he bought the gun from, because they say you knew this pistol had potential problems and you continue to sell them anyway.
Well, it kind of makes me wonder. I hadn't thought about that, and I was unaware of that because of all of the emotion right now about the P320 and all the videos, or anytime I talk about it, I get people saying, well, you need to sell it. I'm like, well, if you sell it and you know there's a problem, well, can't you be, if let's just say you sell it to, whether it be a private sale or you sell it to a guns, and they're going to come back and you knew this problem, and now you're going to be potentially held liable. So
you and I and the other gun tubers are all stuck with ours, because if all they have to do is do a quick YouTube search and they're like, Jason, you made 8 videos that saying this gun could potentially have a problem, and then you went out and sold it. There's the evidence right there. You just admitted on camera that you think there's a problem between the holster, regardless of what it is. And now you sold your gun. Exactly. Yeah. That's just,
And people that say sell it, I'm like, well, I made a video about how it's kind of like stocks. The worst time to sell a stock is I don't think we're going to move on past this eventually.
Yes. Of course.
Now is the worst time to sell it anyway, because the market's flooded with them. Gun stores won't even accept them. And if they do accept them, they're going to go, hey, I'll give you $50 for this thing right now. I know it's a $600 gun. I'll give you $50.
Yeah, there's people in my chat. The latest one was, and I don't know if this is true, this is third hand. He said his buddy had one of the P320 X5 Super Legion models, or whatever, around $1,000 pistol, and the gun store said they'd give him $100. And he said okay, because he doesn't want it anymore, and he's tired of SIG's crap. This was all from his. Is it true? I don't know. It's anecdotal, but I've seen a lot of those. I've seen a lot of people say, went to my local gun store. Either they pulled them off the shelf, they're not selling them anymore, they're not taking them in, so.
And I'm also saying I'm not saying, listen, do not take this as financial advice. Okay, please do. Nobody. I'm just speculating here.
Yeah.
Let's just say SIG takes it on the chin and goes, you know what? We're going to buy them all back. Just buy them all. Just what happened with EOTech. Do you remember how EOTech had the issue? They bought every single, if you wanted to send it in, they gave you, and I sent one in.
They bought 4 in.
And they paid it full price, even if you didn't have the receipt.
Yes. Yeah.
So imagine if SIG does that,
Jason. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. But of course that's owned by L3, and they have a big budget, which I don't think SIG has.
But also you don't hear about it anymore.
No,
right?
It went away, and people buy EOTechs now.
Yes, exactly. I tell people about it and they go, huh? I never heard of that. And I'm like, that's what EOTech wanted. They said, how do we avoid a PR nightmare? Because we've all seen it before. It can absolutely destroy your brand. If you lose your core audience, they will destroy your brand. I got the thing. I said, are you kidding me? I had 4 of them. And I experienced the up to 4 MOA shift due to high and low temperatures. A lot of people are like, well, it doesn't get 120 degrees where I live, so I don't think it's real. Well, if your rifle sits in the sun, it will get over 100. And on a 90-degree day, like in Texas, on a 100-degree day, you leave your rifle in the sun, that optic will be 135, 140 degrees in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so then it will shift.
If it's black, it absorbs all.
If it's black.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it'll shift. So I did the same thing. They said, how many you got? What are the serial numbers? What did you pay? And boom, they cut me 4 checks.
Yeah. And they lost a lot of money, but they now have their base and they're rebuilding. But I'm just going to say, I'm not saying SIG's going to do this, but imagine SIG did, and you sold yours for $50. You're like, I hate SIG now. I'm like, well, someone bought it and just turned around and sold it back to them.
Yeah,
for
I did a video on that. We're talking about Yankee Marshall. He's like, see, I don't think people should stop selling. I said, no. Personal sales. Don't sell it to somebody that is unsuspecting and they think they're getting a SIG Sauer gun for $100 or $200 or 250, and you go, you just want to dump it because you don't want the problem anymore. Well, what if that person takes it and then it does it, and then they see the videos and then they come after you? No, just sit on your SIG. That's just my advice. It's what I'm going to do. If you want to get rid of them, sit on them till this comes to a finalization, till they figure out what's going on, whether they're forced to do it through court, whether they finally come around and see the light and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this, whether they come out with drop in, if they send everybody a new FCU and you send yours in and that fixes the whole problem. I don't know. I don't know what the problem.
You know, there's probably too many of them for this to happen. But you know, sometimes, and I look at everything from the perspective of a collector. I'm a gun collector more than I am anything else. You know what? A gun that has gone up in value based off of what it cost when it first came out, and it's a complete piece of junk and it's unsafe to shoot. The Rogak. You know what the Rogak? That is a dangerous gun.
Have you seen the video where the guy bought 2 of them?
I haven't.
There's a guy he bought. That's the Rogak is the
Steyr
South
GB clone.
African Steyr GB clone, right? Oh, Jason, there is a and for everybody listening, there is a fantastic video out there. I don't know the name of the channel. Just type in Rogak firing or something like that on YouTube. This guy bought 2, Jason, 2, and he actually goes through the whole video, tears them apart, points everything out, fires them, and they are just absolute, just mega pieces of dung. They're just the worst guns ever. But this is the only video, I believe, on YouTube, and he says that nobody's ever fired one on YouTube. And he's like, this is the first and only video where they Rogaks, not 1, but 2 will be fired. And wow.
Try finding one.
Yeah.
And paying, and they go for a lot of money because of the history. I know it's a piece of junk. A Steyr GB is a great gun. The Rogak is a piece of junk.
Piece of junk. You reviewed this one, the Vector CP1, that spacey looking pistol.
Yeah.
That thing is not great. It's okay, but it's not great. And it is all those guns that go through the roof, and they weren't that great when they were out. But then just because they're very rare and they're an oddity, man, the price just goes. The VP
same thing goes with the. In fact, I saw a short on it today of the Colt, because I used to own one, and part of me regrets ever letting it go. And I think I let it go because I wanted something else, that I needed the money. I wasn't in the position I'm in now, so I sold a Colt M2000.
Those
you know what that is?
Awesomely bad. Yeah, of course.
It's horrible. It's a horrible gun. But as a Colt collector, you have to have one for the collection. And I was interested in it because Eugene Stoner had a hand in designing it. So but of course, there's too many P320s out there for it to be that way.
Oh yeah, it's just like Glocks, the combat Tupperware type of stuff. You can get Gen 3 Glocks on AIM Surplus for just ridiculously low prices right now because the market is flooded with them, you know. But
what if they come up with a fix? I was going to say, but what if SIG comes up with a fix, or what if they buy them all back and you dump your whole collection of them because you were emotional in the moment?
How do you feel about your SIG P320s as far as the way they shoot? Do you like the way they shoot? Are they accurate? Are they reliable? Do you like the grip and stuff on them?
Boy. Okay. Quick take on this. Okay. And it depends on exactly what you asked. I'm not really a fan of shooting them because of the trigger. I'm so used to striker fired pistols having this snap when I pull the trigger. It's, like a Glock, a Steyr, a Smith & Wesson. When I pull a trigger and I hear it break, it is snap. When I pull that on a SIG, I remember the very first time I held a P320, I honestly thought my striker was broken because I dry fired it, and I was like, "Wait, that's not right.
That's kind of mushy.
It's kind of mushy, and it sounds soft.
Yeah,
but it works." So I hate the trigger in them. I like the way they feel in my hand, like the stock grip modules, that kind of stuff. So there's things about them I like or don't like. I've never carried one, and even the first, and I own like 9 of them. Okay, but they're all like collector stuff. I have all the different M18 and M17 versions.
I have never polished one.
I don't have a high. I have reviewed a high polished one.
Yeah.
And it shot fine. It shot fine, but it shoots like a P320. I've never trusted. I've never carried one because even back in 2017, when I bought my very first one, I was like, I don't trust this thing. Not because I had any reports or any. I was like, it doesn't have the trigger safety. I don't like the feel of the trigger. And the ones that don't have a manual safety, I was like, instinctively, I knew it's like carrying a 1911 in condition 0.
Yeah.
I had no problem that other people liked them and police departments and everyone. And that's fine. And here's another example of people getting the gun that they wanted. If you go to any store that still sells them and you look at, let's just say they have 10 or 15 P320s there. What do you think the percentage of them that have thumb safeties versus the ones that don't are going to be in that cabinet?
I think there's a lot more without thumb safety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They gave the gun, or they made the gun people wanted. They made the gun. And all of mine, with the exception of one, which is a range gun. It's only a range gun that I made from like competition, parts and that kind of stuff. Every other one that I have has a thumb safety. And I would never own or shoot one that wasn't that one competition gun if it didn't have a thumb safety. I knew that from day one.
Yep. And the problem with the thumb safety is it only blocks the movement of the trigger. It doesn't actually block the sear from moving down. So that floating sear is still free to float around without anything hindering it from. Now, I think they probably would have solved almost all these problems. And then you could probably narrow it down to user error if they had put that safety in where it had blocked movement of the sear, like a 1911. A 1911's thumb safety. So in case people don't know, the grip safety itself blocks the trigger bow from moving backwards. The thumb safety actually physically interacts with the sear and blocks it. It does not move. That's what it locks up into. So it's a much safer design. But I don't mind that 45 P320 that everybody saw in the video actually is very accurate gun.
Wait, do you mean the 45 that you have thousands and thousands of rounds through that you manipulated and put aftermarket parts in?
Aftermarket parts. Somebody said I have an aftermarket. What did they say? You put an aftermarket used frame or something. I'm like, what? No. Like, what are you talking about? Whatever. You're just not going to convince some people no matter what. It doesn't matter. I actually don't mind the way they shoot as far as like the recoil impulse, the grip angle, how it feels in my hand. The trigger is very light. Again, I agree with you. I never carried one either. Because again, I was like, there's nothing here to block the safety, and I think there's something else. Side note, I think there's something else going on. I think possibly in some cases the trigger is getting set back a little bit. But now if it turns out like this Air Force one, and there's been a couple at Army bases where the thumb safety was apparently engaged and they still had, uncommanded discharges allegedly. I don't know.
But isn't it weird too? And maybe it's just the bias of being reported. Because if you're a civilian and you have one of these incidents at a range, or maybe you're out in the woods hunting, you don't make a video about it or talk about it. You don't have to file a report about it. But I do find it interesting that a lot of these problems are coming from law enforcement and military and not the civilian side. Not saying they're all law enforcement military stuff.
Right.
It's interesting to me that that's where it's being reported and the deaths are occurring versus the civilian. I mean, I know competition shooters have had problems with them. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Yes.
But there's a lot of guys shooting them that you don't hear the problems with. It's only the military and law enforcement. Why is that?
Here's my theory on that. Because they carry guns for a living. A cop might do an 8 to 12 hour shift, maybe more, and his gun is in his holster the whole time, and he never had to draw it. A lot of cops that I've known will go home, if they don't have children or whatever, take their belt off, set it on the table, and it's still riding in the holster, and it's collecting sweat and dust and lint, and he's fighting with people, so it's getting jostled all over the whole. Same thing with the P320 for the military. If they are like security forces like this guy, they're carrying them for 8 to 12 hour shifts all day long, every day. Whereas a lot of people that conceal carry, they don't carry a gun a lot. They most of the time they spend with a gun is shooting at the range. If they do carry it, they might leave they don't carry it for work because they work in an office or something. Like, I know you don't carry one at work. For a lot of places you have to go, you might not be able to carry a lot of times. So they're not, that's just my theory. They're not constantly carrying a gun. I mean, if a cop does 6 10s, that's 60 hours in the week. He's carrying that gun the entire time,
But
in and
don't
out
you
of
think?
cars.
But don't you think the competition, the guys that do the running guns,
Uh-huh.
they might not carry it as much, but they're doing a lot of active, use
Yeah.
with that gun. The guys that do the 3-gun competition, they have it on their hip. They're running, holstering fast, unholstering fast. They don't seem to have as many issues. But once again, that might be because they're more familiar with using firearms.
Could be. That could be. But it also could be honestly, if you shoot like a standard USPSA match, we used to have a big one in Fredericksburg. It was about 7 stages, 150 rounds. Honestly, no lie, nobody walks around with loaded guns. You don't load that gun till you get to the line. So everybody's walking around with empty guns, striker or hammer down. That's how everywhere you go, you never feed that firearm until you get to the line with a scorekeeper and an RO. All right. They'll say load, make ready. You load it, you put it in your holster, you're waiting, beep, you shoot your stage, and it's literally 30 seconds. That was one of my problems when I got older and I was kind of like, man, I'm down here from 8 to 4, and if you add up the time you actually shoot, yes, you shoot 150 rounds, but if you add up the time between like the 7 stages, you were physically pulling the trigger for like a minute and a half. Most of the time you were walking around, pasting targets, bull crapping with your buddies, having a good time, but you're actually physically only pulling that trigger for about a minute and a half of 150 rounds. So you fire your stage, let's say it's a 30-second stage, because that's about, most of them are around 25 to 30 rounds, anywhere from 20 to 30-second time limit on a stage. You unload the gun, you got to show clear, hammer downs or striker down, and reholster. So they're not walking around with it. That's just my theory. They're not walking around with them loaded for the full 8 hours. Cops' guns are loaded, condition 1, all the time, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm still saying, like, when they're running the course,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen, if they're running like this and they're running, you're supposed to keep your finger straight off the trigger until you get up on target and shoot.
Yeah, of course.
Even when you transition to targets, you get yourself where you're putting the finger straight off the trigger, unless they're close. I mean, if you're running, if you're moving, you put your finger straight off the trigger. But no, you're right. There could be that too. Now, if they're running and it goes bang, a lot of people be like, you put your booger hook on the trigger, and set it off. But that's just my theory. That could be, you could be absolutely right. Also, somebody made a good point right here. The holsters, a lot of times the competition holsters, at least for like the limited and the open one, they hook on to like the trigger guard. So they're not full holsters where they will wrap up in like these big safari lands where they just rattle in and out. And they're not retention holsters either. So they're real quick, boom, and present the gun, so.
No, it's interesting to hear your perspective, because I'm not a competition shooter, and that aspect of the gun community has always held no interest to me. It doesn't mean I hate you if you do it and all that kind of stuff. It's just been something like I'm not really into Formula One. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's
but
like sporting
cars.
clays. I've shot sporting clays before. I don't really enjoy it though. You know what I mean? I've shot trap sporting clays and it's like, it's okay. I don't, but I don't actively go out there and pursue. I'm not a sporting clay shooter or, I totally get it. People have a bunch of different disciplines. And I think a lot of people have a gun for home defense. They go to the range and shoot, and they have a gun, and they have the same gun maybe for concealed carry. And that's their main purpose, outside of collecting, of course, but main purpose is just like home and self-defense. So they're not going to shoot a lot of competitions. And competition is expensive to get into. It really is. And it takes a lot of time,
I think you also have to have a certain mentality for it. You have to have that always, the competition. I mean, just trying to shave off half of a second in a reload. And for me, as I said, that just doesn't hold any like appeal. Not that it's bad, that if you do that and that's what you care about. I'm more into the mechanics, the geeky gun stuff. And I've also had some, I don't say negative interactions with competition shooters. I've always felt that, like, for example, the range where I shoot at, which is the Frisco Gun Club, all of my range reports are filmed there. There's on certain nights they have, I guess it's IDPA or whatever the local organization is, and they have their things. I've always felt from just talking to them, they always like look down upon me. In fact, there's this one person that runs in a social circle of mine. She is a very well-known shooter, and she has shot with the likes of Jerry Michalek and all that kind of stuff. And I got to talk to her once, and we were just hanging out at this, event. And she goes, "Oh, you have a YouTube channel, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I review guns." He goes, "Oh yeah, you're just that Second Amendment advocate." Like, oh, I'm not worthy.
What's that supposed to mean?
Exactly, because she didn't care about that. She was like, all I care about is running my guns fast and winning competitions, and she does that. And I'm like, well, that's not my style. And I don't think that's. As I said, I look at her and go, okay, wow, good for you. I'm glad you can do that. I can't do that. I have, but I don't try to do that. Just like I don't think she could go and turn on a camera, and review and do what I do.
Well, and be honest with you, Jason, a lot of those guys, I knew a lot of guys, like this one buddy of mine back in Virginia was a air marshal, and he said, I could take a bullseye shooter, somebody that was trained in bullseye, or somebody that spent a lot of their first year's development shooting really focusing on accuracy, and I could turn them into a grandmaster fairly easy as soon as you learn the game of like USPSA and these IDPAs and all stuff. If they came up in IDPA, it's not going to happen, because usually they're just blasting targets all over the place. And it's funny that you say stuff like this. A lot of these well-known shooters, not trying to disparage them or anything, they're getting smoked a lot of times in these matches by Dan the dentist down the road, who spends hours on in his basement dry firing. You wouldn't believe how many regular people like carpenters, dentists, just office workers, lawyers go out there and they absolutely can run a gun in that sport. And a lot of times, especially, again, not trying to disparage the ladies, but a lot of times that's why they break people up into different categories depending on their gear, their gender, their age, stuff like that. So they want to make the competition more fair. But if you see a lot of the top female shooters, when they give an overall score, they're usually finishing somewhere in the middle. They're usually being bested by a lot of random dudes like you or I that just
no, not me,
nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody cares. They're a mechanic, or they're a music teacher, or they're retired or whatever. There's a lot of people out there that don't get that fame. And I understand why a lot of the gun companies would want to take some of these folks and put them out there for marketing campaigns, and be like, they're the world shooter champion of this tiny little, but yeah, listen, I shot with all those guys before. I shot with Ben Steger, with Todd Jarrett, with Jerry, and in the same matches. I don't know any of them. I don't claim to know any of them. I've spoken to quite a few of them. Back at the Phil Strader, the guy that now works for SIG. I used to shoot with that guy at if he ever sees this, at Shooter's Paradise in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's how he knows I'm not lying. The place burned down years ago when he was a Capitol Police officer. You used to have to take a class. It was actually pretty good. They didn't want random people off the street just all of a sudden jumping into competition. They made you take a 6-week course. It was every Wednesday night up in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is Northern Virginia, at this place called Shooter's Paradise. I seen Phil Strader there back in the day. This was 20 plus years ago. I spoke to him back then. So I ran in the circles with all those guys. I'm not saying I know him personally, but I have spoken to him before. I have shot matches with him before.
Sorry, I got dogs in the background.
There's the dogs.
They always get in all of my videos. They hear something. I have a ferocious mini golden doodle and a little terrier.
Yes, we did call it Hoodbridge. William LE 8299. It is Hoodbridge. Yes, sir. He knows. We got golden doodle. We have a golden doodle. She's full size, and then we have is she a miniature? No, not teacup. Toy poodle. We have a toy poodle. And then we just got a new puppy. He's a standard poodle, an apricot one. So
Oh, wow.
I know I like those dogs.
I was always a cat person.
Yeah,
So.
we got one of them too.
Yeah.
But oh, I wanted before I forget, I saw your Ross Martin video today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this. I said I gotta tell Jason this, and then we got in the whole thing of having technical problems. Check out, I believe, people in the chat correct me if I'm wrong or not, but I think Ross Martin is like the Gen 3. Look into Arex Delta M Gen 2, the Arex Delta gun from Slovenia.
Okay.
I think they moved part of it. I don't know if they discontinued production of the Gen 2, but I think they moved part of it to the United States. I think they're still tied to Arex somehow, and they came out with the Ross Martin.
Somebody told me when I made that video,
Is that
because part of my second channel is I always say that I learn from everybody else as much as hopefully they learn from me. And when I go to the range and review guns, often I shoot them without knowing much about them. And I feel that fresh perspective is good instead of knowing ahead of time. But I shot it. Amazing gun. I was blown away with how awesome this Ross Martin RM1C is. I was like, this might be the ultimate carry gun. And then I mentioned, someone had told me at some point, hey, it's kind of a copy of a Glock, but it doesn't have any Glock parts in it.
No.
And then someone says, oh, I think it was like a husband and wife team or something, or people that left another company to start this one. And I just mentioned that. And then somebody said, hey, no, it was started by, I think it's like the granddaughter of the founder of Springfield Armory and her husband or something. And then it was part of that, was the Arex
Delta.
Yeah, and they bought it's a licensed copy.
So it's just like the Springfield Armory being an HS Products, the XD. They get their stuff from Croatia, HS Products, and then brand it Springfield Armory. Yeah, so I wish you could touch guns here. I could show it to you. So the Arex Delta M is more, it's the same gun basically, but it's more angular, a lot of real sharp angles and kind of, but it looks almost exactly like that. It looks like they took that gun and maybe smoothed it out a little bit and then released it as a possible Gen 3. That's what I've been hearing people say it. But my Arex Delta is fantastic. It shoots great. It's smaller than a Glock 19, like you said. It is a fantastic gun, and they're not expensive.
No, it was super cheap. The polymer is nice. The trigger is great. The size to capacity ratio is perfect. It's smaller than a Glock 19. It's
holds the same amount of ammunition.
Same amount of ammunition. Yeah, and someone said the magazines are compatible with a SIG P320. I don't know if that's true or not.
Maybe I have both of those. I'd have to try it.
Yeah, someone said they're the same, and I haven't had a chance since I got home from dinner to actually pull out the P10 and see if it's the same magazine. But the magazines are made by Mekgar, but they're branded Ross Martin.
Magazines. Great. Mekgar makes some fantastic magazines.
Yeah.
They're like one of the world leaders in that kind of stuff. Damn, I forgot.
Actually, I want to give a quick shout out to somebody here in the chat. There's a guy in the chat. It's FW Glock guy. He just said late to the chat. Hello all. That's actually my friend Jason. Yeah, him and I share the same name. He is actually the reason I have a YouTube channel. Believe it or not. So he started he was the Fort Worth Glock guy or FW Glock guy.
Yeah.
And him and I are in the same profession. And he started his channel. And like a few days later, I started mine, which originally I was the Fort Worth Colt guy because I love Colt.
Yes.
And that's what got me into this and how it evolved. So I want to say hello to him. So, hey, Jason, glad you're here.
Hello, Jason. What's up? As you can see, talking about Colt, I've told people before, I love Colt. You know, I just filmed a video where I have 12. I have 12 Colt 1911s. I lay them all out.
Do you know what you call 12 Colts in Texas?
What's that?
A good start.
A good start, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Out here, that's just 1911s. Now I got the rifles and the revolvers and all that kind of stuff. But so I say I take them all out and shoot them in this video. I always look at Colt as like my drunk uncle, like my alcoholic uncle. Like, I love you, Unc, but you got to clean yourself up. You're like a drunken mess, you know? Yeah. But I love Colt, but God, I've had a lot of problems with QC issues with the 1911s that I've purchased from them.
Why do you, I'm just curious, why do you like Colt so much?
I don't know. I think it's an iconic American brand. I like their styling. I like especially like the stainless steel
Mhm.
1911s with the blue G10 grips and all that kind of stuff. And I have other brands that are similar to that. Um, I just like them. I
I'm the
can't
same
explain
way.
it.
It's to
Yeah.
me, it's an iconic brand, and
Hmm.
it's like I guess it's like people that root. Now, of course, first off, I don't know much about sports ball, but like the people that root for the teams that always lose are like, oh
But
man,
yes.
it's going to be their. That's the way I've always kind of felt about Colt. It's just like
Yeah.
they make 3 guns. Okay, I don't.
Yes.
Listen. I'm a Colt fan. I fully admit it. I'm a Colt
Me too.
fanboy. They make ARs. They make
Yep.
single action armies, and they make 1911s.
Yep.
That's it. And they do not innovate. And you're sitting there like, come on, guys. Come on, we can do this. We can do this
We,
together, and they refuse to. And I've never figured out why they just won't do it.
they won't do it. They
They
know
won't do
what
it.
sells, and they're like, "That's all we're doing. That's it."
That's
Yeah,
it.
I know. Just get one of these Turkish companies to make a striker fired pistol for you and put Colt on the side, and
Yeah.
nope, they
Well,
won't do
actually,
it.
they could get CZ to do it for them now.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Have a CZ, have a Colt branded CZ Shadow come out or something like
Or
that.
even better, how about we have a double action only rotating barrel polymer pistol called the M2000? It's a complete disaster.
You heard it here first, Colt. Bring back out the rotating barrel,
Oh.
but don't make it the 2000. Make it something
I
better.
still don't understand everything that happened because you know that I think they actually bought that design from Knight's Armament.
Yeah, I think I saw some. I think
It's my understanding. Now,
did Gun Jesus do a video on that?
I think he did.
Yeah, I think he did.
So
Yeah.
it was this weird deal that Colt thought they were going to like this was going to be the gun of the future for them.
Yep.
They please correct me if I'm wrong. It was a cash deal and they allowed Knight's Armament to like go through their like machine gun collection and take a lot of their historical machine guns for the patent for the M2000. So that's how Knight's Armament ended up with like all these rare guns. Like because you know that Knight's Armament owns AR #1, like Eugene Stoner's prototype.
They
and
do?
I think it was and I think Colt had that for a while when they bought everything, but that's how they ended up with it because Colt's like, oh man, they were like licking their chops, like, oh man, this is going to be the pistol that saves the company, and it was a big flop.
And it's donkey too, just like that other one. What was the one you reviewed them? The Double Eagle or whatever.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's just
it's not. Yeah,
maybe they tried to dip their toe in the water at different stuff so many times, and they all failed.
Well, the reason that they fail is like, well, first off, I'll give you another example of a pistol, and I think you'll know why it failed. Did you know that Benelli had a pistol?
I did not.
Yes. So Benelli had a semi-automatic pistol, and do you know what operating system it used?
Mm-mm.
Inertia. It was an inertia-driven pistol, just like their shotguns. It failed because everyone knows them for inertia-driven shotguns.
Yes.
And they're like, why don't we scale this down to a pistol? And it sucked. HK tried to do the same thing with the P9. They took the MP5, the lock, the roller locking gun, put it into a pistol. They're like, we're the roller locking people. Well, that was their gimmick. Colt has always been the 1911 thing. So when they we're going to come out with a double action gun. So instead of designing a gun from the ground up, they just take a 1911 and make it double action. Or this is what they do, whatever the gimmick is. There was a double action only 1911 but it wasn't a double eagle though.
Mm-hmm.
That I also reviewed, that one of my local subscribers lent to the channel. They just refused everything. They're like, we have to fit whatever the new cool thing is into a 1911. And
Para Ordnance did that for a while. Para Ordnance had the double action 1911 thing going on, which was fairly popular.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously not that popular because they went out of business, but
yeah. But many companies do that. They have one gimmick and they don't let that gimmick go.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. And I have a feeling SIG's going to be this way, getting back to SIG, with this P320. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
The funny thing is we might have mentioned this earlier. It's just that one pistol. Nobody is claiming that any of your other pistols are doing this. As a matter of fact, the guy at Gunsight said, like, we don't have a problem with SIG. You can bring any other SIG pistol you want. just not the 320 because of the alleged issues with it. 226 is 225, but you have a Mark 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a Mark, and I remember you put the little placard on it. You can order them from a company.
Carolina Laser Works.
Yes, the little QR code. I was going to buy one of those. I've always liked it. I thought they were super cool. The little anchor on the slide. I'm like, I want to get it just like Jason. Buy the little placard, put it on there. Cool. And now I'm like, pause. I'm going to wait to see what happens. How SIG is going to continue to handle this type of stuff.
Well, in the next couple of weeks, I have if people don't know this that are watching, I have so many reviews and range reports like in the can already filmed. If I don't make a single piece of content until September of 2026, the channel is automated until that point. That's how far ahead I am. But in the next couple of weeks, I have a couple of SIG rifles and SIG rifle things coming up that are part of the was it the XM7 program. Yes. And that rifle, in my opinion, is a piece of hot garbage. Now, I'm sorry. I mean, it's a cool gun from a collector standpoint, and it runs. It's heavy. The ammunition is expensive. In fact, I think I saw the person that lent it to the channel in the chat earlier. So I'm not gonna call him out. I'm not saying it's a bad. It's cool. I mean, it's going to be worth a lot of money. And he let me borrow and shoot the super rare version where there's only 50 of them in existence. Like when they first had the contract.
Yeah,
it's the real exact copy, just not in full auto.
Right.
And I also am doing I think they call it the MCX Surge. Do you know what that is?
I think so.
I get to review one of those as well. And my big thing with the XM7 is they gave the gun, or they built the gun the Army wanted. And if you go and look at any, I don't know if you're following the articles about it, how many of the soldiers are like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Carry as much ammo. It gets hot. It's a high pressure round.
It's heavy.
Yeah. And it's a nightmare. And I think SIG is going to be bitten in the ass with that rifle as well. It's almost, they need to have the balls to tell people, we know what you think you want.
Yes.
We're going to build this. See if you like it.
Yes.
But yeah. So
no, you're right. A lot of people are going, this is M14 2.0. Because the Army only had the M14 around for a decade, maybe more, as before they dumped it for the M16. So why are you going backwards? A lot of people said that, like, what you're going backwards. Your new rifle is heavier. You carry less ammunition. The recoil is much more. Like, what is going on here?
You know why, right?
All the issue, aside from all the mechanical issues and the reports of the suppressors getting fused on and the optics failing and all that kind of stuff. A captain, I think, came out with a report on it, and they were pissed about that. The Army was, but
well, you know why they're transitioning to it, right? Because they need a rifle that will defeat body armor at a certain distance, and the 5.56 just can't do it. They're looking at modern Chinese body armor that they're issuing to their troops, and they go, if we got into a firefight with these guys, we have to have something that's going to penetrate that.
Yeah, but there's so many other cartridges that I've seen so many people say 6mm arc or whatever.
Oh, that is the best cartridge in the entire world, right?
Yeah,
there.
You reviewed one 6.8 SPC from back in the day. I mean, there's so many that could be retrofitted to the current M4s. You just take the upper, put it on the lower of the military M4s. Get a different magazine with the ammo, ready to go. You know?
I see a comment up here from Paveway JDam that says, Henry Ford this, I'm making the Model A, buy it or not. Well, you know that Henry Ford went kicking and screaming into making the Model A. So he thought the Model T was like the end all be all of cars. It was the perfect car. And while every other car company was innovating, like in the 1920s, it was finally, I think it was Edsel, his son, finally came up to him and go, we are so far behind technologically. We are about to be surpassed by GM and all these other, we have to build something else. And finally he said, okay, do something new. And it was the Model A. And so he still wasn't happy with it.
They were the Glock of car makers, right?
Exactly.
Because now nothing, while Gaston Glock was alive, God rest his soul, nothing was going to change major with that
No.
company. There
And
was
even
no
just
way.
like Gaston Glock's gun,
Yeah.
the Model T only really came in one color.
That's yep. Oh
It was
my
black.
God.
You could have it any color as long as
As long as it was
it was black.
black. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So we've been going for about an hour and a half. You want
Yeah.
to keep it going, or a lot of people, I guess, maybe are going to sleep. I don't know.
Well, that's more because of us talking than anything else, I think.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm a night owl, and right
Okay,
now,
let's keep going then. I got nothing going on. I'm
so
enjoying this. I just didn't know if
I
maybe you were
actually,
tired or...
I actually, when this was done, I was actually gonna go to the range.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and if we go a few more minutes, I'm
Yeah, that's
totally
fine. Cool. We can look at some of the comments here. Like Jonathan Arroyo says, check out the PX4 Storm type C if you get a chance. Have you ever shot the PX4 Storm pistol, the rotating barrel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those, I think they shoot great.
I've shot and reviewed this. Is it the special duty one, which is the one in 45?
Mm-hmm.
That has like the collector case and all that. And after shooting that, I had to have one myself.
Yeah, they're fantastic. If you, we might have talked about this before, but off stream. Did you ever shoot a Grand Power? Have you ever shot a Grand Power? They got the rotating. There's a thing called a Grand Power. I think it's called a G one K100, K11, something like that. Yeah, I think they're from Slovakia or something like that. But they have the rotating barrels, single, double action. They shoot fantastic. They are accurate, and I think there's something to the recoil impulse of that rotating barrel system that is different than noticeably different than the John Browning.
Well, the problem with the rotating barrel is that you can't suppress it. Well,
yes,
you can,
but
yeah. I guess, and maybe it's the brand loyalty that I have, because everyone knows I love B&T, and some people know me as just the B&T guy. And I know people at B&T, and in fact, I know Carl. I mean, I could text Carl Bruger right now if I wanted to. I have his number. I know it's weird. I don't understand how that happened. It's quite cool, and sometimes
he seems like a super cool guy. In all his
cool guy.
And stuff.
In fact, when I saw him on James Reeves' channel, he was like in a harness. He was like that. I messaged him and go, "What the heck happened?" And he's like, "Oh, I had an accident getting out of a sauna or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry." But I was talking to him once about the stripe. You were talking about the Grand Power. Yes. And the Strybog. And I said, isn't that just like I can't remember if it's the APC or whatever. He goes, yeah, they totally walked over all of our patents and infringed upon them. And we even sent lawyers to wherever they make Slovak. I guess they don't have a whatever the agreement, the reciprocal agreement is when it comes to laws and patents, that's not very strong, and they don't enforce it. And they were just like, hey, listen, like, can we just like work something out where like this is an obvious patent infringement, and you can make the gun, but like give us like, something per gun, because it's our, and they're like, nope. Nope. So I guess for me, I don't like Grand Power because they literally ripped off B&T.
Yeah, I don't know about the pistols. They've been out for a long time. But yeah, they shoot fantastic. So what is, kind of switching gears here a little bit, but what is next on your list for pickups for your personal collection? What are you eyeballing? What do you really want? What are you like, yes, I gotta have that?
This is a very difficult question because I'm in a unique place as a firearms enthusiast and YouTuber, in that I say it in my videos that I am probably the most blessed YouTuber. I mean, I'm not the biggest. I'm a nobody, and I know that I'm a nobody, but I promise you that I get to shoot and handle and fire guns that most people never even get to see, because I have amazing supporters, people that just go, I like your style, I want to lend a gun to you. And I'm like, okay, what is it? They're like, here, borrow this $10,000 Cabot 2011. I'm like, okay, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. Some of them are in this chat tonight, and my channel would be nothing without them. Now, I have a pretty sizable collection of guns
Mhm.
that I rarely get out because I'm so busy shooting other people's guns.
Right.
And so I get to play with other people's toys.
So you don't need to buy your own anymore.
I
What
don't
do
need
you
to
get a
buy my
man
own
that
right
already
now.
has everything,
Yeah.
right?
And when it comes to my personal collection, it's just like I have kind of everything I kind of want.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I go to a gun store now, I'm kind of overwhelmed because I can't focus. I think I'm undiagnosed like attention deficit disorder. Like I go in there and I'm like looking around and I might eye something. I'm like, ooh, I really want this. And then I look over there and go, ooh, I really want that
I don't
too.
want that, right?
But I can't get both. And
Right,
then I get frozen in a decision and I don't get anything,
right.
you know? But I'm like, I mean, 80% of the guns in my collection, I've never shot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think I only
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah.
I have one gun, and it's a duplicate of that. What's that dang thing? The Arsenal Firearms. It's a pistol.
Arsenal Firearms.
Yeah, it was that. It was that Russian Special Forces pistol, the Stries or whatever they called it. That where him and the Italian guy, the inventor of that, and the Italian guy were making the pistol together at the Tanfoglio factory back in like the early 2010s. It's called the
Archon?
Strike One. It's called the
Strike,
Strike
it
One.
was the
It
Archon.
came back out. I think it's come back out a couple of
Yeah.
different times. It's like the Strike A, Strike B,
Mhm.
and then somebody else. And I think now APF Firearms. Or
It has
something
that super duper low bore axis.
Yes. Yeah. So I bought two of those. I bought one when it was all the rage. And then the only US distributor was, I guess they were stopped selling the pistols, going out of business, whatever they were, and they were blowing them out for stupid cheap prices. Like I think I bought the first one for somewhere around 1,000 bones, and then they were like, "Hey, we're blowing all these out, $400 or something like that." They were just getting rid of them. So I was like, "Let me get another one." And I've never shot that one, but I'm pretty sure that's the only gun in my collection that I haven't actually fired.
Yeah, I mean, I see somebody saying, and I think it's Misfit 138 goes 80% is crazy, but you have to understand that when I buy a gun, it's usually at this point, it's like an addiction.
Yes.
Where when I first got into guns, okay, I had a friend. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. And not with a gun. He had a lot of problems in life, and I guess I have to use the term self-deleted him, or
Yes.
he self-deletion. And he was actually the person that first got me into guns, and he actually gave me a little Smith & Wesson 22 target pistol. That was the first gun I ever owned. But the first gun I ever bought was a Glock Gen 3 17. And it's when I moved here to Texas and I got my concealed carry. I was like, okay, this is the standard gun. It's in video games and movies. I want that gun.
Yep.
And I saved up, and I think I spent, $500 on that thing. And I remember going to the store that day and going, wow, this is a lot of money. And I was looking at guns that were like $1,000. And I was like,
whoa,
man, whoa. But that was my first, your first like little sample,
Oh yeah.
They got me hooked. And then I'm like, okay, I want my next gun. And I saved up, and now I don't want a $500 gun. I want that $900 Colt 1911.
Yep.
I got that one. And then it got to a point when you would buy a gun, it doesn't, if it's not special, it's not what it doesn't do it doesn't it's just like, oh, I picked up another Glock just because I felt like it,
I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, I buy, it seems like I buy more for collection now, and I like kind of oddball stuff too, or I get the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like right there in the background is a Yugo M70 in Serbian red furniture, because they said they're going to stop arms exports. So I said, well, I wanted a Yugo AK. Now I have two of them. I wanted a Yugo. So let me buy it in case you can't get them anymore. And then that one is the Baril, the full package. And they are also going to stop importing those. So I'm like, well, let me get them now before they're $3-4 grand in the future. I do that type of stuff. Or like I've always been a huge fan of Berettas, of the M9 series of pistols. I have the 92 FS, the M9, the M9A1, the M9A3, and I've had countless, the 92S, countless other ones. And I'm like, I want to start buying Berettas more. So the funny thing is, I go on PSA and they were blowing out the Langdon Tactical ones.
Mm-hmm.
Not the really high priced ones that come from Langdon Tactical. Did you know Beretta makes like a Langdon Tactical model, but it's just from Beretta, and it's like a
No, I
lower
didn't know
price
that.
one? Yeah, so they make one that's coming in tomorrow actually. It's a Centurion, so it's a 4.25-inch barrel. So it's a Beretta made. It's got Langdon Tactical markings, grips, but it doesn't have the complete Langdon Tactical never put their hands on it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
It's like a
So it's straight from,
licensed, yeah.
yes, it's like a licensed one, and it doesn't get all the top little hand stuff done to it. But it was like, I want to say $740 or something like that, which is fantastic price. And then you go look at the similar model with the full Langdon package thing. It's like $1,800. So I'll deal with the Beretta special one. We'll see how it is tomorrow.
So speaking
But
about buying guns, and this is going to be a collector's thing. What is the gun that you made the most on and lost the most on from a financial standpoint? Now, I'm not saying you had to have sold them, but like you bought it at a certain price, and today the going rate is this. What's your biggest loss and what's your biggest win? Because I pretty much know what mine are.
so I don't know if this counts, but when the pandemic thing was going on, I had an FN scars were going for like $8,000, and I didn't sell mine. I sat on them. I had the 17 and the 16. Actually, now that I think about it, the 17 is probably the biggest one I lost money on, because I think I paid about $3,300 to $3,400 for the Scar 17, and I sold it for I think around $2,000 because gun prices were really low. This is, I think, before pandemic, so Trump was in office, so there was that slump there too. And I was just trying to get money for my precision rifle, my Accuracy International. So I was like, I don't care. I sold it to a buddy of mine that was a dealer. I'm like, here, because he's like, I've got to resell it. And I'm like, okay, fine. So that's probably the one I lost most of the money on. The one I probably made the most was I have a Arsenal SGL 21 Legion Russian AK. It's like all as many Russian parts as you can have on it, minus the 922R compliant parts.
What caliber?
7.62 by 39.
I think I have whatever that thing is in 5.45.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a
Yeah.
non-folding stock one and stuff like that. I think I bought it in 2008 for like $950. And apparently like the Legion is their custom shop for an AK. Yeah, I paid $950, and I looked on Gunbroker the other day, and they're all going over for over $3,000.
I wish I could go get guns out of the safe.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I'm like, man, I can't do it on the live stream. Well, my biggest one might actually be, okay, if I had to say 4, I bought that. I don't even remember the model number. It's an Arsenal Russian made AK just before the Obama import ban in 5.45, and it was already converted, from its whatever and then I did a lot of Russian stuff minus the 922R compliant thing. Those things go for crazy money now. I have an FN Scar 16 that I bought off of here in Texas. There's a trading website where I'm not going to list it. I'm not going to mention it here in the chat, obviously, but people can, ask for, hey, I'm looking for this, or I want to trade this or buy this, or you can sell stuff or whatever. It's all private sales because that's legal here in Texas.
Yeah.
And I had posted like, hey, I'm looking for a Scar 16. The Scar 17 didn't interest me as much. I'm not really a big 308 guy. I'm like, I want the 16. And I said, I just want one. If you got one for sale, let me know. And some guy said, listen, I have one. I bought it 6 months ago. I haven't taken it to the range, and I got a big poker game coming up, and I have a huge buy-in. And I think I bought the thing for $1,900.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but back then they were like $2,300, you know.
Uh-huh.
And today you can't get one for what were those things? $4,000.
Something like that. I bought it. I just did a video on the Scar, like a little one,
Mhm.
because GBRS compared it to the Jackal, and I was like, okay, guys. I mean, but anyway, I bought it the day they released from AIM Surplus. I don't even remember when that was. 2005, early 2000s, something like that. AIM Surplus got some of the first batch in. I paid like $3,300, $3,100. It was over $3,000 because, I had to be the first kid on the block with one, and take it to shooting competitions and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, they dipped up and down, but I overpaid for mine. I don't even know what they're going for now. $4,000, something like that.
Yeah.
More, like you said.
I also bought an HK P7 M13 unfired box and papers for $2,900 or $3,000. That's back, and that was another thing where I had posted. I was really looking for like the like a basic P7.
Yeah.
And a guy said, "Hey, I have this M13. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "It's a little bit more than I want to pay." And the guy was a P7 collector, and he was looking to buy one that was used in the XM9 trials. That was like $14,000-$15,000. So he was selling a whole bunch of his P7s, and I picked up. And now the P7 M13s, it has a symmetrical date code that's like II, imported to like Chantilly, Virginia, unfired in the box, all the paperwork, and that thing's like $5,000 or $6,000 now.
Oh shoot, yeah, it could be. I've seen some of them as much as unfired in the box. They have both magazines and papers.
I have 3 magazines for it.
Oh shoot, I've seen them on Gunbroker for $8,000 to $10,000.
He threw in the 3rd magazine for free.
Those magazines are $500 a piece if you could find them on Gunbroker.
Yeah.
I was telling you, I picked up one. Was it this year? Earlier this year, last year. No box, no papers, just the one magazine. It's in pretty darn good shape. $4,000, and that was a good price. If you wanted to, I've seen at least on Gunbroker, I've seen them, fired, but with box papers, both magazines in pretty good shape, $6,500. So, and yours is unfired in the box, which means it's probably in excellent condition.
Oh, it looks like the day it would have been, bought at a store.
You could probably ask 8 to 10 for that. That's crazy.
And the
That's
biggest,
awesome.
and the one that I think I kind of won the lottery on is a HK Mark 23. It was another one of those. I want that. Yeah. And at that point, I didn't care what it was. I just wanted a Mark 23. I know it's an offensive pistol, not a defensive pistol. And I asked for, and some guy goes, "Yeah, I got one. Had it for a while, looking to sell. I just need some money." And he sold it to me at the time. It was about what they went for, maybe a little bit less than what they went for new. Because he's like, "Yeah, it's an older one." So I looked at it. We met. I remember I was at the Bass Pro in Grapevine, Texas, in the parking lot. I know right where it is. I pass by there all the time. And it was a rainy evening, and I look at it and go, "Yeah, it's in good shape. Everything's fine." And we had the agreed upon value, and I just paid him cash. And he left, and I was looking at it, and I was sitting there in the car like, "Wow, I have an HK, Mark 2023." And I started to look at the date code, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna look up this. I'm curious when this gun was made. What's the actual year?" And it turned out it was the first year production. And it was one of the first 2,000 that were made. And it was in the old maritime finish, not the one that they currently have, which is the hostile environment finish.
Yeah.
And then it had the rare, I didn't know this, the camouflage case. Most of them came with a black case. This has the HK branded camouflage case. That case alone goes for like $1,000.
Wow.
And I was looking at this. I'm like, do I really have a first year production, first 2,000 Mark 23 with the camo case unfired? And I just paid this for it? Because I knew at that moment, and I listen, the reason I did not feel guilty is I bought it not knowing that.
Right.
I just thought it was a Mark 23. The seller should have done his due diligence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I picked it up, and then I'm doing my own research on it, thinking, I'm just wondering, like how old is this thing? It's in pretty good shape, blah, blah, blah. And those things are crazy expensive now.
That's
yeah. I won the lottery on that one. And that's also on all the guns I've mentioned, I've never fired, because that's the type of stuff I collect. Because once I fire that P7 M13, drops in value.
Oh yeah. No. Don't get me wrong. I would not have shot mine, and I don't shoot mine a lot. Not that they're fragile guns, but it's really hard to get replacement parts for them, and they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
If I had come across like the deal that I would never fire it. If it's unfired in the box, I wouldn't fire it, because you lower the collector value on it. But that one obviously has been fired, so I shoot it occasionally. They're fun guns to shoot. You shot your other ones though, right? Your P7 M8 and the PSP, or
not the M8. The M8 is unfired in the box with all the paperwork.
Yeah, don't shoot that one either. Don't shoot that one either. Yeah.
But I have fought my PSP. I mean, I fired it because it's a Lower Saxony police trade-in.
Yeah, that thing's been fired.
It's been fired.
Yeah,
but it's in good shape.
Oh my God, people don't understand, Jason. There's a very few people out there that really get the P7. A lot of people are like, that weird squeezy cocker thing, and I'm like, listen, you got to go back, not 2025. You got to go back to late 90s, early 2000s, and it's fantastic. And it's probably one of the safest. I wouldn't hesitate carrying that gun at all. It's
it would never go off. You have it
never.
I've heard stories where bad guys got a hold of a police, they fought it off the officer and then tried to fire it and couldn't fire it because they don't know you have to squeeze the.
You have to. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to shoot one first before people.
It's a weird manual of arms.
Yeah. What was I? Oh, I remember what I was going to say, because I forget stuff sometimes. On your SIG videos, going back to your latest SIG videos coming out, I'm preaching to the choir, but you expect you're going to get the comments because of what's going on, even though you filmed it like 6 months to a year ago or whatever it is. You're going to get you're just a SIG shill. Screw SIG. How dare you review this rifle? SIG sucks. You're going to get all that kind of stuff.
Oh, of course I will.
Yeah.
Well, I always say that I have to future-proof my videos.
Yeah.
And there's been a few videos, like, for example, if you go to my main channel, I released a video today on is it Watchtower Firearms 2011?
Yeah, the Apache. Yeah.
The PewView Apache.
Yes. Yeah.
In that video, I talk about how I don't like person branded stuff, because PewView Tactical is a YouTuber. Well, what if he has some big controversy in the future, or he doesn't do in 20 years, no one's going to know who PewView Tactical was.
Right.
So that ruins the value of the gun. Not saying he's a bad guy or anything like that.
No,
It's just the interest in that gun now is attached to him.
Yes. And
so if he does something, it'd be like you having a Jeffrey Epstein signed autograph. I mean,
right.
Like, oh boy, well, that's worth
he did not kill himself, by the way. For the
exactly. It's just like, oh boy.
But no, you're absolutely right. Look at all the Demolition Ranch stuff, right? And he just said, "All right, I'm done packing it in." And unfortunately, a lot of people have already moved on, and in a couple of years, a lot of people probably won't even know who Demolition Ranch is. So you're right. So they bought all these guns with Demolition Ranch, and now they're going to spend the rest of their life like, what is this Demolition? And they have to explain that, oh, well, it was this YouTuber, and
But Watchtower Firearms is now out of business.
Out of business. Yes, they are. Yes,
but
sir.
in that video, when I filmed that was 8 months ago.
Right.
So at that time, they were in business.
Yeah.
And then everything would... afterwards. So people are already like, you're an idiot. You don't know anything. That company's out of business. I'm like, I filmed that video 8 months ago.
I've gotten that you're right about future proofing your videos, and I failed to do that. I tried to do it, but I failed to do it a lot, especially early on. I was the first person on the internet to do a full review of the TSOS Night Stalker 1911. And at the time when I bought it, I think it was like $699 or something. I'm just throwing that number. I think it was something like that. Now people are buying them for $400, and they did the same thing. They come in, they're like, you idiot. I just bought one for $400. You spent $700. You're an idiot. And then I go back, one of them, I was like, check the date on the video, dummy. It was filmed 2 years ago.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I was the first one on YouTube and the internet to give a full-length, in-depth review of this gun. So, and then they actually came back and were like, "Oh, my bad, dude. I'm sorry." And I was like, "Well, if you would just look at the date, you could go, oh yeah, this is when it first came out. So of course the prices are going to be a little bit higher, and then they dip down if you wait, you know." But so I feel that.
Yeah. I always try to future proof them, but I can't do everything. But I never mention. I try not to mention like cost, you know, like what or what it's going for now, because in the future it's not going to be worth that.
Yeah.
Or yeah. So yep, that's it. So
Yeah. so we're at 2 hours. You want to call? You still gonna go to the range tonight?
yeah, probably am.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
probably gonna.
So if you want to call it, we can.
Yeah. And we should do this more often then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Had a great time.
So
all
maybe
right,
I can
gents.
host the next one then.
Excellent. That'd be perfect.
All right.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jason. Again, I'm sure a lot of you guys know. Mark said, "Great show." Thanks, Mark. Mark is the best.
Oh my gosh.
If
Yeah,
you
we gotta
guys
give him
are
a
in
huge
here,
shout
yeah,
out.
Jason. Yeah, Mark is amazing, and he makes amazingly beautiful custom grips. Go check out his website. If you don't know who he is, you better learn who he is, because he can hook you up. He makes just crazy good stuff. And Jason, you tell him about it.
Well, if you guys know, I know people say, "Oh, you run the ad all the time," but like, yeah, but you guys have no idea how my channel would not be possible without.
Yes.
If you look in the chat right now, Brown Works, BROWNE works,
Yep.
one word. Go check out his website.
Yes.
He is the most generous sponsor ever.
He's amazing.
It's amazing. And I've talked to you, about it. How it's just like, sometimes he's like, "What ammo do you need this month?" And I'm like, "You've done so much. I feel guilty." Like, and that's why I do a live read in every range report for him, because I want to put and as many eyes on his website and his product as possible,
100%.
because it's amazing. And I've seen the evolution of his grips, where they were always good.
Yes.
And I see the new stuff that he comes out with, and I'm like, oh, damn, has he upped his game?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I just want to give a huge shout out to him, and please go check out his website and if you order from him, make sure you tell him the Wyoming Gun Project and the Texas Gun Vault.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you, Mark, for being here, because what I do would not be possible without you. And I stand on the shoulders of the most generous people in the world. And if I can give a quick shout out to them, because I know some of them were in the
100%. Go. Yeah.
One
absolutely.
of them is my friend D. You guys know he has in a insane collection. He's the guy who was like, "Does D have that too?" It's like, yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
And he lets me borrow the most amazing firearms, and without question. And it's just like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes." And he even lets me, like I told you about the XM7 rifle. He's like, "Dude, if you completely like dump on this, you're not going to hurt my feelings." I'm like, "Okay." He's that good. He's that good. And he doesn't mind, because he's a collector like I am. He likes the geeky stuff. And I have guns in my collection everyone else hates. And I'm like, I want it for my collection. So there's people like him. There's people like my two friends, Jack number 1, Jack number 2. I have, oh my gosh, just so I hate to actually just start mentioning people, because I will forget people. I have another friend named Nick, another friend named David, my friend Craig, and a lot of these people are always on my channels, commenting on like all my videos. And so please, if I forget your name, or not forget your names, but like just don't mention you now. Trust me, I am overwhelmed and humbled beyond words that I do not deserve what I have.
Yeah.
And it's because of people like Mark and his generosity. So when I make those ad reads in every single video, it really does come from the heart. And it's not because, oh, I'm getting ammo. It literally is because he makes all this possible. I mean, you have no idea how much ammo I go through in my reviews. It's crazy. And he 100%. Helps offset so much of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So there it is, guys. Thanks for joining us again. Check out Mark at Brownworks. Everything Jason said is 100% true. He's an amazing human being. Makes great stuff. Totally custom, by the way, too. In case we forgot to mention that. You want to send him a picture or something? He made me some Schoolhouse Rock grips for one of my because
Speaking of pictures,
yeah.
real fast, Mark, if you're still in the comment section or you're still listening, please keep uploading new. I know you post on Instagram. Take all those pictures and upload it to the shared folder so I can include those new ones in the ads. You don't always do that, and I always want to show your latest and greatest stuff. So if you can and have time, upload it to that shared folder so I can add that to the ads.
Yeah, he makes great stuff, man. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us again. Of course, Jason, we will have to do this again.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Bye. Yep.